You're probably asking yourself, do I need a firewall for my home or small business? And if you do ask yourself that question, the answer is, in my opinion, yes. Hi, I'm Woody Huffines. I own the NerdsToGo in McKinney in Frisco, Texas, and this is Tech for the Untechnical. Let's be honest, you're probably not asking yourself if you need a firewall for your home or small business, but I think you should, and I think when you do, that your answer should be definitely yes. And we'll talk about why I think that's true. The reason that you need a firewall, and when I talk to my clients about putting a firewall in, the first thing they say is, well, I've got a Windows firewall. No, it's a little different. We have a network firewall versus the Windows firewall. They serve two very different purposes. So why you need a firewall is the same reason that a prison has cell doors and cell block doors and a big fence outside. It's called defense in depth. So what the fence outside the prison protects is different from what the cell block door protects, which is different from what the cell door for the individual prisoner protects. And what the firewall does in Windows is it protects your computer to some extent. But it's only your computer, and all the other resources that are on your network are not protected by the firewall that's sitting on your computer. More importantly, in today's world, there are so many more devices that are probably connected to your home or business network that can't take a firewall. How do you put a firewall on your Ring doorbell, your Amazon Alexa, or your lights that you operate from your phone, or your garage door opener, or all these Internet of Things devices? There's no way to put a firewall on those devices. So having a firewall at the perimeter, which is what it's called when you have a network firewall, is you set up a firewall that puts all the stuff that you want to protect inside a protected perimeter. Now, why is that important? Well, what a firewall does, basically, is it makes sure that somebody that you don't want to be connected to can connect to you. The way the internet works is through a handshake process. It's called the triple-way handshake. When you call on Amazon, your computer sends a SYN request. It's S-Y-N, not, of course, when I shop so much on Amazon, someone might think it's a SYN, S-I-N, but it's a SYN request. It's a synchronization request, where your computer reaches out to the Amazon server and says, hey, I'd like to make a connection. Then the Amazon server sends a SYN-ACK, which is a synchronization and acknowledgement, back to your computer. It says, hey, I understand that you want to make a connection to me, and then your computer sends a SYN request or synchronization request to the Amazon computer and says, yes, let's. And you get a three-way handshake. So that connection is made. Well, what the Windows firewall does is it watches outbound traffic, and it only allows inbound traffic that you have requested. So, if your computer doesn't request a connection with a computer that's not your computer, the firewall goes, no, somebody's trying to call that I didn't want to connect to me, so it blocks that connection. And that's a really important thing, especially in the what I call internet background radiation. I think Steve Gibson's the first one that called it internet background radiation. There's all these worms and viruses and malware that's just out there on the internet. And if you connect an unsecure computer, you're going to get that. And that's why the Windows firewall is important. But again, that firewall only protects your computer. It doesn't protect all of the other devices on your network. What a network firewall does is it does that same thing for everything inside of your environment. Now, why is that really important for your home or small business? Well, because there are a lot of things on the home network that might phone home, call China, for example, a lot of the Internet of Things devices, TikTok videos, a lot of places that go out and connect to the internet. Now, a firewall, a standard configuration like a Windows firewall, would allow that connection into your network. So let's say that you have a baby monitor that records all of your baby monitor stuff, or you've got a camera sitting on the house, and that camera records activities around your house and sends it off to a server someplace, and then you go in and you connect to that server so that you can watch the videos that your camera took to see if your neighbor stole your trash can, which we have to do periodically because our neighbor likes to steal our trash cans. But that works fine unless there's something inside your security perimeter, be it an Internet of Things device, a smart television, an Amazon Alexa, la 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 la, the list goes on. And a normal firewall would allow that inbound connection because the device that's inside the perimeter asked for that connection. So if your baby monitor or your smart television goes and connects to someplace in China, the firewall at the perimeter even would allow the inbound connection because something inside the network asked for it, which is why a well-configured firewall is incredibly important to protect your business or your home. Because what a next generation firewall does is it looks at a lot of the traffic, well, it looks at all the traffic that goes out, and it makes decisions on that traffic based on a variety of factors that you can configure or that can come pre-configured to keep you from connecting to somebody you don't want to connect to. For example, the firewall that I recommend, the firewall we use, you can restrict it by country and say, you know what? There's no reason for anything that's going on in my business or my home to connect to a computer in North Korea. So anytime that a connection request goes out to a North Korea-based server, the firewall goes, nope, don't believe so. Or Russia, or the Ukraine, or all the places where you have advanced persistent threats and hackers out there trying to get into it. You can say, look, I don't want to connect to Russia, the Ukraine, North Korea, Iran. There's a list of countries that you probably don't want to connect to. And a boundary firewall or a network firewall will make sure that that little cheap Internet of Things device that you bought at Target doesn't reach out and make a connection to a server in some place you don't want to connect to. Another advantage of having a firewall for your home or your small business is that you can look at your network traffic. Right now, you have stuff connecting to the internet all the time in your house, Internet of Things devices and televisions and Amazon Alexas, and you don't have any visibility to see what it's connecting to. When we establish a firewall, especially for our business clients, we also monitor that firewall, and we have alerts that go out to a firewall. It's kind of embarrassing to admit, we were testing a new firewall this week. I had a new firewall product that I wanted to test in the store. And I put it in the store and I got it all hooked up and everything's connected, and then got busy and I didn't look at anything for a couple of 3 days. So I went back to look at the logs on that firewall to see what was going on. And I had a computer that was in the store that was sending out a bunch of ping requests to my network that was generating a bunch of network traffic that potentially, ping requests are one of the things that you need to pay attention to, that would potentially cause a problem or slow down my network. Because I had tested some other software on that computer 2 or 3 months ago and I didn't completely take it off, I had not a virus, but something that was doing something on my network that I didn't want it to do, that this new firewall product found for me and allowed me to go fix, that allowed my network to run more smoothly. If you've got a small business, another important thing about running a firewall is that maybe you've got somebody in your small business that does all of your social media stuff. And that person needs to connect to Facebook and do your Facebook posts and make sure that your YouTube videos are going well. But somebody that's in accounts payable, you probably don't want them spending all day on Facebook because that's not what you pay them to do. With a firewall at the perimeter, you can determine which device can connect to what internet resources. And that does a lot to make sure that people aren't messing around doing things that they don't want to do, as well as you can configure the firewall to keep from reaching out to things that are a known security risk. The final thing about a next generation firewall, if you have an antivirus, and you should, and if you don't, contact us, we'll get you one. If you have an antivirus, you'll notice that the antivirus is constantly updating. That as new signatures or files are identified that are problems, that antivirus gets an update to find that new threat. Well, the next generation firewall does the same thing for the internet generically. So, for example, one of the things that happens when you get a malware or you get a hack or you get a ransomware, one of the first things that happens if you click on an email that you shouldn't click on, your computer reaches out to what's called a command and control server. And a command and control server is the server that starts delivering the malware and copying your data and all that internet traffic out to that command and control server can be or will be monitored by a next generation firewall. But the next generation firewalls get updated just like the antivirus. So if there's an internet attack going on out there, that command and control server that's the source of the badness, if you will, gets identified very quickly because next generation firewall vendors and the people that we use, for example, have a security operations center and SIEM and SOAR and all this MITRE ATT&CK framework stuff that they look at. So as soon as something bad starts happening, they can say, you know what, that server is doing nefarious things, and they'll send information out to the firewall so that that firewall that you have in your house won't allow you to connect to a server that has a bad reputation because it's causing a problem. Another thing that's really nice about one of the firewall products we use is it won't allow you to connect to a newly established server. These command and control servers, the bad guys have figured out that when their server starts doing something that people don't want it to do, they just spin another domain up. And they spin another one up, and they spin another one up, and they spin another one up, and they just keep creating domains that are command and control servers. And it's a game for the firewall and security operations centers. It's a game of whack-a-mole. One pops up and they kill it, and another one pops up and they kill it. One of the firewall products we use won't allow you to connect to a domain that has existed for less than 30 days. So if the bad guys spin up a control server and you get something on your computer that tries to reach out to that server, the firewall goes, nope, hadn't been around long enough. Or the firewall will say, you know what, that server doesn't have a reputation rating yet, and if it doesn't have a reputation rating yet, you can't connect to it. Anyway, at the end of the day, a firewall adds a level of protection to your network and the resources in your network, all of them, regardless of what they are, as well as keeping you safe. If you click on something or try to go someplace that you shouldn't, it keeps you from going there. Much better than an antivirus. The antivirus finds things after they're in. Firewall will keep them from coming in at that network perimeter. So, if you ask yourself, should I have a firewall in my home? My answer is probably yes. If your question is, do I need a firewall in my small business? My answer is definitely yes. If you need some more information about that, contact us at NerdsToGo and McKinney, and we can walk you through all this in something other than a YouTube video. If you find this information helpful, click on the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and when I have one of these ideas, you'll be notified. And as always, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.